Well guys, this is the second Dracula film to come out in 2023. The difference between this one and the one earlier this year is that this one doesn't have Nicolas Cage in it. So, is there any point in watching it? Yeah, turns out there is. Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of The Last Voyage of the Demeter, or Dracula Voyage of the Demeter as it's known in some regions, including Australia. I barely saw any marketing at all for this film. I saw one trailer a couple of weeks before it released, and it had Bullet with Butterfly Wings by Smashing Pumpkins in the trailer, which I thought was quite funny. But aside from that, I heard no buzz about it. I heard no one talking about it. I didn't really see any posters anywhere except for like when the movie actually released. So I was hesitant with this film. I thought, look, if they're not marketing it at all, really, then there's got to be a reason why they're not doing that and dropping it right between Barbie and Oppenheimer. I just can't see any reason as to why this would be any good. But when I watched it, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I found to love in this one. So let's get into it. So to start off with the things that I loved about this movie, and I was surprised by this because I just thought, well, look, it's a Dracula movie on a boat with an entire boat crew. None of these characters are going to stand out, but they really did. I thought that the characters, specifically of Clemens, Captain Elliot, and Wojciech, Wojciech. However the fuck you say that, whatever. I thought they were all really good, compelling protagonists in the film. I think all of the actors did brilliantly. I'm actually really happy to see David Dastmalchian start to make a name for himself because I think that he's quite good because he was in The Boogeyman earlier this year and then he made a significant upgrade with Oppenheimer and now he's appeared in this. I thought his performance alongside Corey Hawkins and I can't remember the guy that played Captain Elliot, all three of those performances were really good. They were really compelling. I found them quite easy to root for, very interesting. They've obviously got their own personal conflicts about certain things, but I was very happy that they actually act like that they were good characters because, you know, you see a movie like this, you realize, oh, it's taking place on a boat with an entire boat crew. It's just like, there's no way any of these characters are going to stand out. And they did, so I was happy about that. Another one of my biggest positives with this film is that Dracula himself is awesome. Gone. Well, I'm just praying that it's gone. Gone is the stench of Twilight and, you know, hot vampires and stuff like that. This film portrays Dracula to be a complete monster. He's just out for blood. And I thought his design was awesome. He was really greasy and really creepy. His face was all warped and fucked up. He looked really kind of like you'd imagine a traditional vampire to be. He had those awesome wings and stuff like that. He was a looming threat. He was really tall and skinny. And just some of the scenes with him, like when he's introduced in some parts, like there's someone standing out on the boat and lightning flashes and you just see his figure looming over. I thought it was brilliant. It was a really great gothic atmosphere created through his character. And I had a really just almost like I transcended realms. I'm like, oh, this is what vampires should be. I just had a moment where I was just like, yes. The kills in this film were also all great. I think that there could have been maybe a little bit more like on-screen kills rather than just kind of like, you know, a mate's gone missing or whatnot. But I think that pretty much all of the kills were really effective. They were all really brutal, really bloody. Some CGI blood, but I didn't find it to be like a hindrance to the kills or the brutality of them. I thought all of them were really good. I thought some of the makeup effects were great. It was like almost wince-inducing stuff, like just people's throats being ripped out and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's nasty, but I like that. I also love some of the balls that this movie has as well. It doesn't really feel like high stakes in this film, but no one is safe. No, they're not really fighting for anything aside from their life, which, you know, I guess, you know, that is pretty high stakes. But you don't necessarily feel like, you know, they have to conquer this evil or something like that. But it's the fact that anyone can die. and they kill off some characters that you don't really expect them to. It's quite, some moments are pretty shocking. You're like kind of taken aback. You're like, Jesus, I didn't expect them to do that. Which I think is really nice. I'm glad they didn't, tone it down or anything like that. All the kills, as I already said, were great. And I'm glad that this movie had some balls with just making sure that no one was safe on this ship. And it just created this really claustrophobic, suspenseful, just uncomfortable nature about the film. I also thought that the way this film looked and just the setting of it in general was brilliant. I'm a big fan of period pieces. I really do like it when, they go back to these old Gothic castles or whatnot. And that isn't this movie, but, this big old boat that sets sail. It's unique. I haven't really seen many movies take place like singularly on a boat, as far as I can remember, that's done as well as this. I can remember one movie that takes place on a boat. Let me just get it for a sec. This is the other movie that I was thinking that takes place solely on a boat. Yeah, Last Voyage of the Demeter is a lot better than this piece of shit. It does a great job at kind of just getting you into that time period, that mindset of what these characters are going through. It makes you feel like, you're really actually watching people in the late 1800s, just set sail out to sea and are just trapped out there. I really appreciated the look of everything. Also, another thing that I loved, that I feel like a lot of films, when they have scenes on boats, sometimes just don't acknowledge, and it was the constant kind of swaying of the camera. It wasn't overburdening to the point it was just like the movie was just rocking, it was just like, ugh. But it was to the point that it's like, they're definitely on a boat. They're not just on a set. They make you feel as though you're on a boat. They are obviously on a set, but they make you feel as though you're on a boat with the camera work, and I think that was really clever. I also just love the lighting of this film as well. It's just very dark and shadowy and foggy, things looming in the corner and just behind characters' backs, just very, very, very creepy, very tall figure like Dracula, he's looming, and that's the word I keep coming back to. His looming presence throughout the film is really enhanced by the clever use of the dim light that basically the entire film takes place in. And Bear McCreary, he was the guy that did the score for the Child's Play remake, and that score is basically the only really redeeming thing I found about that movie. And it was a great score. And his score in this film, again, is brilliant. It's so just booming and over the top. It almost reminds me of the score from Bram Stoker's Dracula a little bit, which makes sense considering they're both kind of, Gothic period piece vampire movies. And I thought he did it really, really well. Now, that's not to say that this film doesn't have some flaws, because it does. It's not this amazing, brilliant reinvention of the vampire genre or anything like that. It's too long. It's way, way, way too long. It's 2 hours long. It does not need to be 2 hours long. It doesn't need to be near 2 hours. I reckon 90 minutes would have been perfect for a movie like this. It has a lot of time kind of just settling with the characters. They're kind of just, going around doing whatnot, which I get. You want to set up the situation, but it's definitely too much. And there's a lot of time between all the kills and carnage, which, as I said, are great, but the gaps between them are definitely too long. They should have just been trimmed down a bit. And another thing about that length is that there is a repetitive nature about this film. Now, I understand that you can't do a hell of a lot on a boat, but when it gets to the kind of thing, each night, each morning they wake up, they realise one of the crew members is missing, and they're like, oh fuck, what do you reckon happened here? Oh, did you do it? Nah, fuck, I didn't do it. Okay, whatever. And then, wake up the next night, same thing, kind of, and then they eventually start to realise. It just has a really repetitive, as I said, repetitive nature to it. And, again, you can't do a hell of a lot about it with a film like this, but you can shorten the runtime to make it feel less just like a bit of a slog at times, like just rolling this massive wheel over. And also, not many of the other characters, if any at all, I should say, are really all that compelling. They're whatever. And I understand you can't characterize every character on this entire crew, but aside from when it got into like the second half of the movie, every death before then was kind of just like, what the fuck ever, I don't care. And like, yeah, there was nothing really to them. They were just very quite stereotypical drunken sailors. Just, yeah, not all that interesting to keep you engaged when there isn't kills and carnage going on. With all that being said, I was surprised by how much I actually did enjoy this film. I think that you can absolutely chuck it on as just a fun horror romp with plenty of kills and blood. Maybe not quite as much as there should have been, but more than enough to just suffice your needs if you're feeling like, you know, oh, I want to see a bit of blood and guts. You're going to get that from this film. Just be prepared to have to wait a little bit to get it. And I'm not going to be surprised if a lot of people come out of this thing saying, nah, it was pretty fucking boring. But, you know, if you're a fan of vampire movies the way I am, absolutely check this out. You might like it. I'm going to give The Last Voyage of the Demeter 3.5 stars. Guys, thanks for watching my review of this film. As I said, check it out if you're a vampire fanatic the way I am. But if you're not really missing all that much. But I thought it was a bloody good time, even if only on like, you know, a B-movie sort of level. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you all later. Bye.